In the dead of night, a gunshot rings out, shattering the silence of a small town. A young man lies bleeding, his life hanging in the balance. As paramedics rush to his side, they notice something strange. His car keys are in the ignition, and his wallet remains in his pocket. But as time passes, it becomes clear that this is no ordinary crime scene. The victim is still breathing, but he doesn't recognize his own parents when they arrive at the hospital. He can't remember who he is or how he ended up in this situation. With each passing moment, the mystery deepens and the search for answers begins. On Christmas Eve in 1983, the quiet town of Walker, Iowa was shaken by a brutal shooting. 19-year-old Ronald Lee Novak was discovered lying wounded beside the road, his body riddled with bullets. But as the emergency services rushed to his aid, it quickly became apparent that the picture was far from complete. Despite being seriously injured, Ronald couldn't recall any details of the incident or even his own identity. It was as though someone had wiped his memory clean, leaving behind only a shattered psyche and a trail of unanswered questions. As the sun set over Walker, casting long shadows over its residents, fear began to grip the town. Who could have done such a thing and why? The community was tight-knit and violence was rare. This wasn't like their town. Amidst the confusion, one piece of information emerged, offering a glimmer of hope in the darkness. A witness had spotted a red van near the crime scene around the time of the shooting, but the occupants of the vehicle had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a haunting memory of what might have been. With each passing day, the investigation into the shooting of young Ronald Lee Novak took the investigators deeper into the labyrinth of Walker's underbelly.
Wow.
Despite the best efforts of the medical team, Ronald remained in a coma. His life support a constant reminder of the gravity of the situation. As the days turned into weeks, it became clear that if justice was to be served, they needed more than just a witness statement and a hunch. They needed hard evidence, a smoking gun that could pull the trigger on a conviction. The small town of Walker was not accustomed to such turmoil. It was a place where front doors were left unlocked, and children played freely, where neighbors knew each other by name and looked out for one another. Now, however, the tranquility was shattered, replaced by a sense of foreboding and mistrust. The shooting of Ronald Novak had cast a long shadow over the community, leaving everyone on edge, wondering if they could ever truly feel safe again. As the clock ticked away the seconds, the hours, and the days, the pressure mounted on the investigators. They were in a race against time, desperately trying to piece together the fragments of the puzzle before it was too late. They scoured the town, retracing Ronald's steps, talking to friends, family, and anyone who might have crossed paths with him. But each lead seemed to end in a dead end, leaving them no closer to finding the truth. Amidst the despair, a tiny glimmer of hope emerged. A single witness had come forward, claiming to have seen a red van in the vicinity of the crime scene. It wasn't much to go on, but it was a start. Investigators followed every lead, no matter how small, hoping that it would unravel the tangled web of deceit and bring them closer to understanding what had happened to Ronald. Each interview, each interrogation brought new information, new theories, but nothing concrete. It was like chasing shadows, always close yet always out of reach. Then there was Ronald himself, trapped in a world of pain and confusion, unable to help the police piecing together the crime. If he could remember what had happened, it might unlock the door to justice. But his silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the mystery that shrouded the case. The shooting of Ronald Novak had not only shaken the community of Walker, but it also left an indelible mark on the hearts of his family. His mother, Helen, was particularly devastated. She had always been a pillar of strength for her son, but now she found herself lost in a labyrinth of worry and helplessness. Helen Novak was a woman who wore her heart on her sleeve. Her love for her son Ronald was as boundless as the sky above Walker, Iowa. She had always been there for him, offering a listening ear, a warm embrace, and unwavering support. But now she found herself in a nightmare, desperately clinging to the hope of his recovery. As the days turned into weeks and Ronald remained in a coma, Helen's world began to crumble. The vibrant young man who had brought her so much joy and pride was now fighting for his life, his future hanging in the balance. Consumed by worry, Helen became a regular fixture at the hospital, her presence a constant source of comfort for the doctors and nurses who cared for Ronald. They too had grown fond of the young man, and were doing everything they could to save him. For Helen, each day was a torment. She would sit by Ronald's bedside, talking to him as if he were awake, sharing stories, jokes, and above all, expressing her unconditional love. She refused to give up hope, clinging to the belief that her son would wake up, that he would make a full recovery, and that the nightmare would soon be over. However, deep down, a nagging fear was taking root. What if Ronald never regained consciousness? What if the doctors were wrong? And what if this was not just a temporary setback, but a permanent goodbye? Helen's strength was tested like never before. She was forced to confront the possibility that her son might never return from this slumber, that he might be trapped in a world that neither she nor anyone else could reach. Yet through it all, Helen stood firm. She refused to let go of hope, refusing to give in to the despair that threatened to engulf her. Her love for Ronald was a beacon in the darkness, guiding her through the darkest of times. Little did she know that her unwavering faith in her son would play a pivotal role in the story that was yet to unfold. The years rolled by, and with each passing decade, the hope of solving the case of Ronald Novak's shooting seemed to fade. The once promising leads went cold, and the witness statements lost their clarity. The case was in danger of being relegated to the dusty archives of unsolved mysteries, becoming just another statistic in a world where many cases never saw the light of justice. Yet amidst the fading memories and the silent whispers of what could have been, a new generation of investigators emerged. Armed with the latest technology and an unquenchable thirst for justice, they revisited the cold case files, determined to give voice to the voiceless. In the bustling heart of Walker, the legacy of Ronald Novak continued to live on. The community, though scarred by the tragedy, had come together to honor his memory, turning their grief into a force for good. They established the Ronald Novak Memorial Fund, which provided scholarships to deserving students, ensuring that Ronald's spirit lived on in the dreams and aspirations of the next generation. Every year on December, the town came together for the annual Candlelight Vigil, a solemn ceremony where they remembered Ronald, shared stories, and renewed their commitment to keeping his memory alive. These gatherings were more than just a tribute to the past. They were a testament to the enduring power of hope, a reminder that even in the face of the most harrowing tragedies, the human spirit could endure. In the heart of Walker, nestled among the old-growth trees and winding streets, stood the Novak family home. It was a place filled with laughter, warmth, and the aroma of freshly baked cookies. A place where happy memories were made and dreams were nurtured. But since that fateful Christmas Eve in 1983, the house had become a symbol of both joy and sorrow, a constant reminder of the life that was and the life that could have been. For Helen and her husband, the house held a special significance. It was here that they had raised their children, watching them grow from helpless infants into loving and caring individuals. The walls seemed to whisper with the echoes of their laughter, making each room a shrine to their shared history. Yet as the years passed and the pain of their loss began to ease, Helen and her husband knew it was time to move on. They listed the house for sale, hoping that the new owners would fill it with the same warmth and happiness that had once resided there. But as they prepared to say goodbye, they couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness mixed with the anticipation of a fresh start. The house was sold, and with heavy hearts, Helen and her husband moved into a smaller home on the outskirts of town. They carried with them the love and memories they had shared within those four walls, cherishing them as a precious treasure. The new owners, a young couple with dreams of their own, moved in, bringing with them the promise of new beginnings. As they unpacked their belongings and decorated the rooms with their personal touch, the house slowly came alive with the sounds of laughter and love once again. In the digital age, the once elusive killer was now within reach. Investigators used advanced DNA technology to delve into the genetic makeup of the perpetrator, searching for matches in national databases. Every test brought them closer to the truth, weaving a tapestry of evidence that could finally unravel the mystery. But it wasn't just about the science, it was also about the story, the human element that had been lost in the cold case files for so long. Genealogy played a pivotal role in the investigation, allowing experts to trace the killer's lineage, uncovering family connections and mapping out their path through time. Each branch on the family tree led them closer to the present day, bringing them face to face with the suspects in this chilling tale. It was a slow, meticulous process, akin to solving a cryptic puzzle. But the pieces were falling into place, revealing a picture that was both shocking and heartbreaking. After decades of waiting, justice was finally within grasp. The year 2025 dawned with the promise of a new beginning, not just for Walker, but for the investigators too. Armed with the latest technology and an unquenchable thirst for justice, they revisited the cold case files of Ronald Novak's murder, determined to give voice to the voiceless. What they discovered was nothing short of astounding. Through the magic of modern science, they were able to reconstruct the killer's DNA, creating a virtual blueprint of the perpetrator that had eluded them for so long. Armed with this powerful tool, they embarked on a mission to hunt down the killer's relatives, tracing their bloodline through the intricate branches of family trees. It was a painstaking process, but the results were worth every effort. They identified Gary Edward Leemaster as the prime suspect, a man who had been hiding in plain sight all these years. The weight of the evidence against him was overwhelming. Not only did his DNA match the profile they had created, but genealogical records linked him directly to the crime scene. It was as though the walls themselves were whispering the truth, finally setting the record straight after decades of silence. In the end, it was the combined efforts of old-fashioned detective work and cutting-edge technology that cracked the case wide open. The arrest of Gary Edward Leemaster sent shockwaves through the community of Walker, bringing to light a dark secret that had haunted their town for generations. As the trial commenced, the residents of Walker were gripped by a mixture of emotions. They had waited so long for justice that it almost felt surreal when the truth began to emerge. The revelation that someone they knew, someone who had lived among them all those years, was responsible for the shooting sent chills down their spines. The trial itself was a roller coaster ride of emotions. Each witness statement, each piece of evidence brought new revelations, peeling back the layers of a meticulously crafted facade. It was as if the town was reliving the tragedy all over again, this time with the benefit of hindsight and the clarity of truth. As the trial drew to a close, the jury delivered their verdict, bringing an end to decades of uncertainty. When they heard the words "guilty" echoed in the courtroom, a wave of relief washed over the town. Finally, justice had been served. In the aftermath of the trial, Walker began the long process of healing. The scars of the past would forever remain, but the town had shown remarkable resilience. Coming together to support one another through the highs and lows of the trial, they honored the memory of Ronald Novak, not just in words, but in deeds, working to create a safer, more compassionate community for all. The case of Ronald Lee Novak's murder was more than just a crime. It was a stain on the soul of a community. But through the use of advanced DNA technology and genealogy, justice was finally served, bringing to light the truth that had been hidden for so long. In doing so, the investigators not only solved a cold case, but also gave voice to the voiceless, ensuring that Ronald's memory lived on in the hearts and minds of those who loved him.